the story of Christiane Joubert.
My name's Christiane Joubert, and I grew up in West Africa, of all places. I grew up on the beach with an idyllic childhood. I have 2 sisters and a brother, and we're all very close in age and also very close to each other. I had 2 great parents. My father was a physician, and my mom studied law. And so we lived in Ghana, in West Africa, which used to be called the Gold Coast. We lived there for a total of 10 years. I was actually born in Montreal, but never really lived in Canada for very long, except for 4 years when I was little. So I've lived in Canada and Africa, and also then we moved to Saudi Arabia. And I went to schools in Europe and then to college outside of Boston, and made my way to Fort Worth, Texas, where I lived for 20 years, and then came to California. The first time I knew that I wanted to sing, to be a singer, was when I saw the movie The Sound of Music. We were in Montreal on vacation from Africa, and my parents said they wanted to take us to the movie The Sound of Music, and I did not want to go. I thought it was going to be some boring movie about a symphony, and I said, no, 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 and they dragged me to this movie. And I came out of it transformed, absolutely transformed. And we bought the cassette. At the time, it was a cassette, or maybe it was an LP, I'm not sure. But anyhow, and I learned every word to every song on that tape from the soundtrack. And from that point on, music meant so much more to me. And I was always singing around the house and singing on the school bus and leading sing-alongs. And then as I got older, I was able to take some voice lessons in high school, and I was kind of surprised. I was featured as the only solo singer in the Glee Club, so I thought, well, maybe I can sing. And so I just kept doing it.
Talk of summertime, say you'll meet me with you now and always. Promise me that all you say is true.
I love chocolate. Chocolate's one of my favorite things. Hello. Oh my, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Let me know if you have any questions when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Oh my God, I'm in a minute. These are my favorites up here. Some hazelnut truffle. And you know, it would kind of come and go. Sometimes I get to do it more than others. And I did make my living as a singer for 3 years. I sang 4 hours a night for 6 nights a week for 3 years on South Padre Island, a resort in southern Texas. And became a big fish in a small pond, and I have never been as happy in my life. So then when I moved to California, I didn't get to sing as much. I did sing 1 night a week at a very nice restaurant here in the desert. And now I continue to perform. I do private shows here and there, and I also sit in with musician friends of mine. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I do songwriting. I work on my songs. It's a craft. It takes a lot of work and rewrites. But I lived in Nashville for 2 years and learned the music business. And I went to a lot of songwriting seminars. So I know what it takes. The most important factor is the time to do it.
Say the share each day with me each night.
Chocolate kind of is bad for the vocal cords. It just kind of, clings. But usually not if I'm going to sing that night or that afternoon. I try not to eat the chocolate. There they are, the milk chocolate truffles. They're so good. So some of the highlights were, for example, when I did get to do the solo performance for Glee Club at Parents Weekend. I just was so flattered that my voice teacher asked me to do that, and I got to sing the song Tonight from West Side Story. And following that, I'd have to say that when I was, before I went to sing on South Padre Island, I was taking voice lessons in Fort Worth, Texas, and I did a recital at my house, and I invited friends, and at the end of I think I did 10 songs or maybe 12 songs, and at the end of it, one of my friends came up to me and said, "That was such a show, I felt like I should have paid for it." And I was so flattered, and I felt so encouraged by that compliment. Then singing on South Padre Island, when I would do some of my Broadway show tunes and some of the other standards, people would come up to me on a fairly regular basis, and they would say to me, "You should be in LA or you should be in New York." And that was just, again, such just incredible compliments. I'd have to say those are some of the highlights, really, of my. And then one time, another musician friend of mine was watching me perform, and when I went up to talk to him at the end of the set, he said to me, "You have them eating out of the palm of your hand." And I thought, coming from another musician, that was just, just a wonderful, wonderful compliment.
Every day seems a lifetime. Let me show you the way to a joy beyond compare. I can't wait a moment more. Tell me quando. Say it's me that you adore. And then, darling, tell me why.
I love that red. Oh my God, look at all the colors. I would have a hard time choosing. Oh my God, these are some great colors. So the family, I guess, Mom was supportive to a certain extent. We got piano lessons. I got to take piano lessons, and then, as mentioned, I wanted to take voice lessons, so they did pay for that. My sister, I have two sisters and a brother, I think I've mentioned, and the sister that's right below me, she was my first audience. And I would sing and entertain her in our bedroom and over when we were out at recreational events, and I would just burst out into song, and I'd make her laugh, and so she was my first audience. And when I was in high school, I did a lot of singing, and I took some acting classes as well. And when I graduated, I told my mom that I wanted to go to a school specifically to study music and acting and dance. And she said, "Go to college, get a degree, then do whatever you want to do." So that was good advice, basically. But to me, it totally discounted the artistic side. It just didn't give it any sense of worth. And so I did as I was told, and I went to college. But having grown up in Africa and then with boarding schools in Europe, I really didn't know enough about the American collegiate system to know that I could have double majored. So I ended up going to a business college and getting a great Bachelor of Science in Business. And I sang a little bit here and there at talent contests. but I basically didn't get to sing that much. And now, in hindsight, I wish I had double majored in music and in business. That would have been the perfect fit for me. Well, my first inspiration was Julie Andrews from the movie The Sound of Music, but I've got to say probably the biggest influence is Barbra Streisand. And there's only one Barbra Streisand, obviously, and she's phenomenal. And my voice is more adult contemporary, as they would say in radio, and sort of pop-oriented, but I also do a lot of Broadway show tunes. So I patterned myself after her before I had voice lessons. I would just listen to her, and then I would sing and try to sing like her. And of course, Celine Dion is just unbelievable. Whitney Houston, fantastic. I love singing her song, I Will Always Love You. And it was written by Dolly Parton, but Whitney really made it a huge blockbuster hit. But I love all genres of music. I'm a huge country music fan, and I love some blues, and I love rock and roll. So I take from all of these artists and I watch them perform and I study what they do and I try to bring that into my performing. But ultimately it has to become about who and what I am as opposed to trying to be one of these other people. And then I studied, I was classically trained and I studied some opera, but I don't care to sing opera except one song that was a lot of fun. But it was really good training for how to protect my voice and how to sing properly and how to project. And I just continue to study. So, I think one of the common misconceptions that people have is that every one of us wants to be this superstar. This one woman in Fort Worth, and she was phenomenal as a jazz singer. And I said to her, I went up to her and I said, boy, you could just be doing this. I was one of those people that came up and said, God, you should be on the big stage and traveling the world. And, she was just perfectly content to be there in that small jazz club, not touring the world, just getting to go home to her own bed every night. And another musician friend of mine who actually plays here on the desert on a regular basis, he could have done that, but he said, I just like coming home to my own bed and just, not have to worry about touring and, because I don't think people realize how lonely it is when you're out on the road and you're on a tour bus and then you end up in a hotel room, and hotel rooms are pretty sterile and uncomfortable and lonely. So that's some of the major misconceptions that I think there are, and some of the frustrations are that you're not taken seriously. You're not taken seriously as somebody that could really make it in the music business, could make their living as a performing artist.
A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
As I grew up and did more with the singing And but in high school, I was also like president of my senior class and editor of the yearbook, so I have a really strong left brain as well as the right brain. And so I was kind of torn sometimes between doing the music and doing the business side of things, which is why having double majored in both would have been the best combination for me. But my aspiration was I really wanted to travel the world as a performing artist, and I still have the dream. I've never let go of the dream of traveling the world as being a performing artist. And my whole goal for doing that is because I want to make a difference on this earth. I have a story to tell, and I want to instill hope in people and encourage them, not just in the artistic field, but in every aspect of their life, because I've overcome some major obstacles, and you can get through it and come out on the other side. And so I really want to share that with people. So I got to live a lot of my dream when I sang for those 3 years on South Padre Island. And then when I finished that, I started burning out on doing, the 6 nights a week for 3 years. That was kind of getting old, as much as I enjoyed doing it for so long. And so I decided to move to California. All of my family was living in California at this point in time. And I thought, boy, I just had major surgery, and it was a really difficult time. And I thought, I'm just going to do it. I want to be closer to the entertainment industry. I want to be closer to what's going on. And so I did. I packed up and moved. And people were like, why are you moving to LA? Good God. But I like LA. I love the energy there. I love the people. I love the music business. I love the film industry. And I thought, even if it doesn't happen, I'm living my dream. Just by moving here, I'm living my dream. And I thought, I don't want to be 70 or 80 years old wondering what could have happened, if I'd had the guts to just go ahead and do it. And I got to meet so many people. I'm really great at networking. I joined the Recording Academy that puts on the Grammys. And I got to meet people like David Foster and Quincy Jones and Jimmy Jam. And just by getting out there and just being in different places, I was in some of the right places at the right time. I remember saying to David Foster one time, I want you to be my producer. He said, get my attention. So I'm still working on that.
Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? She moans the whole day long. I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong.
I did want to be a major recording artist, and when I lived in Nashville, I recorded a demo. I was able to get top songs from top songwriters just because of my networking, and I'd worked in radio, and so I got to meet some of them and built relationships with them. And I said to them, I know I can't put these songs on hold, but I really want to put them on my demo. And because I network well, I got to know the heads of all the record labels. So I recorded this demo, but my mistake was I really wasn't ready as a performer. I didn't have chops as a performer. And I gave that demo to the head of one of the labels. He said, I'd like to hear it. And it was good, but it wasn't great. It has to be great because there's so many people competing for that. So it was like, that was one of my big opportunities. And now I'm not country, but they were signing other types of acts there. And then when I came to LA, I still see it sometimes when I'm watching major acts on stage. I'm like, I got to do that. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I can still do that. And people say, oh, this is the other thing that gets me sometimes. They say, well, you're too old. It's past your time, and you kind of need to give up on the dream. And I refuse. I won't give up. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen. I just want the dream, and I'm always going to go for it. That's all there is to it. Well, there's a price to pay for everything, and it's just a question of how high a price you're willing to pay. And when I watch some of these younger performers, and I see how they, they say sex sells. but that's not what I'm about. And I look at other performing artists that aren't doing that, and they don't have to do it because it's about their art, and they really have the talent. And so I'm more about integrity, and I have a particular image that I want to portray, and I won't deviate from that. And I have a fun, performing. It doesn't mean that I can't be, energetic and, a really good performer and a good entertainer, but I don't have to reduce myself to what I think some of these young performing artists do. And some of them, it works for them and it fits, and it's a good fit for them, but it's not a good fit for me, and I wouldn't do it if somebody said this is what you have to do to make it happen. I just wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be worth it to me. So I have to say that I have certain standards, and I won't lower those standards. If I'm, I feel like if I'm good enough to do it without having to resort to that. I've given up lots of times, and it lasts for about an hour. And maybe a day, maybe a whole day, and it's just such an intrinsic part of me that as I said earlier, I just refuse to give up. If I didn't have this music, this desire in me to be a performing artist, that my corporate career, I would have been much further along, and I'd be closer to being able to retire, financially, because a lot of the path that I've taken was so that I could do my music. So it has cost me in a sense, but I really didn't have a choice, and I really wouldn't trade for it. And I know it's going to work out in the long run, but sometimes I do say, God, I wish I just didn't have that drive in me to have to do that, because then I'd already be like, my sister's going to retire next year, and so that's difficult sometimes. But and I look back at some of the financial investment I've made in the music, and I'm like, well, if I just left that in my savings or investment account, then it would still be there, and I'd have that kind of security. And then I think back on it, and I think of the times that I had, like living in Nashville and getting to live the dream and being around music, and they call it Music City, USA, and I got it after I'd been there about a week. I said, oh my God, this is Music City, USA. I get it. And I wouldn't trade for that. I just wouldn't trade for it.
Have I said too much? There's nothing more I can think of to say to you. But all you have to do is look at me to know that.
What's next for me is to continue to focus on my goal, what my objective is. Currently, I have the day job, which I'm really grateful for. It pays the bills. I'm focused. It's a new job, so I'm really focused on doing a great job at that. Because I want to keep it. For a long time now, I've been wanting to put on a concert, and I don't really have a great venue for what I visualize in my mind. I've looked at a lot of places here, and there are a couple venues, but they're so expensive that I just can't afford to do them there. And but I want to do a concert for my friends. I have so many friends that say, I want to hear you sing. I want friends of mine to record that. I have some professional, people that could record it for me, and then be able to put that up on YouTube and to market it as well. My name's Christiane Joubert, and I just told you my story.
If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
sun keeps shining, as the moon continues to reflect the sun, as the earth remains